Welcome to MiWeek after the show. So the one thing that we were kind of all talking about before we came out here with the show was the news about Brian Williams. That he said that he was in a helicopter that was shot by an RPG in Iraq in 2003, and the reason why it came back up again is he was at a game last week honoring one of the soldiers who was part of that, and repeated the narrative that he was actually in a helicopter that got hit, and it turns out that that really wasn't the case.
No. It wasn't true.
And for many Brian Williams fans, and I have to say, I'm a bit of a Brian Williams fan. I was shocked because that seems like something that if it happened to you, you would remember.
Yeah, well,
you would not misremember it.
Right, and of course the explanation always in these cases is even more outlandish than the act itself. That, oh, I misremembered that. Well, no, you didn't misremember. You made it up, and you said something that wasn't true for whatever effect you thought you were achieving, and now you're caught.
We had Hillary Clinton do the same thing when she said her plane came under fire when it was taking off from a base in the Middle East. That turned out not to be true. You don't know if people, thought something was happening that didn't happen, or their fear at the moment. I don't know.
Well, and the big problem is, of course, that journalists all face tremendous hurdles to credibility as it is now. You've got so many different sources and so many different standards that those sources use of information, and people can't sort out who's telling you the truth and who's just, telling you their opinion or making it up.
Everybody's in the opinion business now. I mean, all journalists are in the opinion business today, which sort of cuts in on our turn.
I wouldn't say that all journalists are in the opinion basis, but I will say in terms of TV news, and when you have these anchor gods, I will say it, like the big three networks are doing the nightly news, they take years building up these guys' credibilities.
Sure.
They take years in putting them out on the big stories so you can see, they're out in front. And when they were grooming Brian Williams to take over for Tom Brokaw, they had him in these certain situations, and you wonder if that feeds into the, hey, oh well, Brian, he was part of the firefight, that it feeds into this, building this image of, tough guy in the middle of the story.
Right, front lines and
and is that a problem with the show aspect of television news?
It could be. I mean, it's getting to be a lot entertainment, or it has been a lot more entertainment than news on some nights. You can blame the appetite of viewers as well. I mean, there's not a whole lot of appetite for serious journalism in the American public right now.
All right, so what happens to Brian Williams, or what should happen? Because to me, I mean, he just lost it for me.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if he lost his anchor position over something like this. This is a pretty egregious act. I mean, this is not a mistake, right? This is not an error. This is a made up story. I think it's very hard to explain that away. I don't know what he could say that would make you believe him in the future. I think these are the kind of things that maybe you step away from.
Well, I think the key is, did he actually make this up, or did he really believe mistakenly that his helicopter was under fire? I mean, somebody in that situation, not familiar with it, could easily make a mistake. And I think that's what's got to be determined before we decide whether his head's going to roll.
I don't think his head's going to roll. I think, even he apologized on nightly news last night, which is on Wednesday night, and even in his apology, he said, and then we were in a harrowing sandstorm for 2 days afterwards, and I just wanted to go, no, don't use harrow. Don't try to make it sound just a little bit edgier than it was. And I think that kind of smacks in the face for people who have served as well, and they say, hey, Brian, you really actually didn't put your life on the line. You were there covering the story because we're the guys that were doing it.
And some journalists have. I mean,
and some journalists have lost their lives covering.
Yeah, a lot.
You think of the standard for this kind of reporting set by Ernie Pyle, and the kind of reporting that he did, which was really just straightforward and factual. Now, this is a very different era of journalism as well. But this really dishonors that. I mean, there is an incredible risk to people who go and report on war, just as there's the risk to people who go and fight the wars. And making up stories about that, it's not something you have to embellish. It is dangerous enough. It is life-threatening. Tell the story and let it speak for itself.
All right, so it's final word on that. We think we'll be seeing Brian Williams continue to anchor the news.
I got to believe. Huge
I think he might be gone.
No. All right, we'll wait and see. Okay, it's My Week After the Show. We'll see you next week. Take care.